was a moment of hope, the hope of a nation that years of violence could be finally coming to an end. South Sudan's President Salva Kiir and his bitter rival Riek Machar together in neighbouring Sudan in 2018 to sign a peace deal in the presence of leaders of many other African nations. A dream of the unification of different ethnic groups and the development the country so desperately needs. Much scepticism as well, though, from the people of the world's youngest nation, independent itself since only 2011. And after an initial peace agreement in 2016, soon saw the capital Juba in flames, fighting leading to the death of hundreds and the displacement of many, many more. So 2 years later, could a deal hold this time around?
Today marks the end of the war. And all the opposition leaders who signed the agreement have fulfilled each other. And we consciously decided to move this country forward, a healing process, through the healing process.
Nowadays, the people of Juba still live with the fear of renewed violence. 35,000 people living in displacement camps, too frightened to risk returning home. There is also, though, an ongoing, passionate desire to move forward. Juba, one of the few places in the country where the peace deal is mostly respected. The hope that the city can serve as an example to the rest of the country. This February, Pope Francis even visited to preach peace and reconciliation. But the conflict in neighbouring Sudan, food insecurity and severe climate change-related flooding continue to undermine any real prospect of economic advancement for what remains one of the world's poorest countries. Well, our reporters revisit now Juba for France 24.
For one weekend, time stood still in Juba. Tens of thousands of people from across the country flocked to listen to the Pope's appeal for peace. In its 12 years of existence, the world's youngest nation has known only civil war, famine, and exodus. But in February, the Vatican deemed the city safe enough to welcome the pontiff. Yet many here are still suffering from the conflict. 4.5 million South Sudanese are refugees or displaced within their own country. That's 1/3 of the population.
People are living in insecurity. You cannot go where you can work, you can get something for your family. Somebody may get you there in your farm, can kill you while you are an innocent person.
Since the start of the fighting in 2013, ethnic massacres carried out by the military and rebel groups have left at least 100,000 people dead. The peace agreement signed in 2018 and partially implemented since 2020 has brought some stability to the capital. But more than 35,000 displaced people still don't dare leave the Juba camps. Abandoned by the government, they were central to the Pope's visit. 2,000 of them came to meet him.
You are the seed of a new South Sudan, a seed for the fertile and lush growth of this country. You from all your different ethnic groups, you who have suffered and are still suffering, you who do not want to respond to evil with more evil.
Maria would do anything to stop the violence and bring peace. Displaced in her own city, she's been living in a UN camp since 2013.
When people enter in the war, up to this time, people are still suffering a lot. The crisis of anger, the poverty, and then the killing. So I can say, not in one side that things are really okay. So I think there is a need for something to take place.
The displaced people who live in this camp have been waiting in vain for 10 years. Maria has not received any food aid in the past 6 months. When she sees an NGO distributing some money, she tries her luck. But she doesn't get any this time. Aid is only given to the most vulnerable people. She is vulnerable, but not enough to get help. Weakened by years of violence, Maria can no longer work. The former nurse is supported by her family and friends who survive by doing odd jobs.
Now this is the business the women are doing. Like this woman, she's selling eggs and the thing you can see from the background. And that is what we do for a living.
Leaving their refuge to find formal work is nearly impossible. But when the peace agreement was signed in 2018, allowing for the return of opposition leader Riek Machar, many envisaged moving away from this place. But nothing has changed. Despite the promises from politicians, Maria still lives inside the camp, fearing more violence.
From the very beginning, I listen when I try to move in that good direction, that there is hope that things will be okay. Of course, if there is a fully peace agreement, everybody is free. But now we are still a bit confused because the peace process is very low. So it is like sometimes you are getting scared. Maybe you are suspecting anything can happen. You don't know actually.
From murder to rapes and kidnapping, women are the first victims of the horrors of war. So Maria is trying to help her country move forward in her own way. Once a month, she brings together representatives of different tribes. The goal is to find a way to talk to their sons and their husbands and change attitudes.
If we're not doing this, we won't be able to share the burden and help people. This is how our country will get better. I'm afraid. I don't want to go back to 2013. So we need to have these kinds of meetings.
These women are all volunteers. Faced with political inaction, they decided to take things into their own hands.
We are hoping for change. If there is a peace one day at a time, and then there will be a peaceful society whereby the women will have an opportunity.
That hope is an idea everyone in Juba is clinging to. The most recent fighting in the capital dates back to July 2016. Hundreds of people were killed. Since then, all traces of the clashes have disappeared. A precarious calm hangs over the city, which is slowly growing. As Juba expands, many are moving to the outskirts of the capital. Kiolan comes from the south of the region, where intercommunal violence continues. When the fighting subsided, he settled here on the banks of the Nile to become a farmer.
This is a land for someone. It does not belong to me. It is the city. I have to rent it. Was mine. My land was at my village. So right now, as I'm in the city, I'm renting the land. Those are then the money will sometime when you calculate at the end, maybe you get lost or you get profit. But I will continue because I need to survive. I have to eat.
In 2017, no one dared work in the countryside surrounding the city. Being alone meant running the risk of being attacked by the army or by bandits. But since then, others have joined Kiolan.
It will be important when we cultivate because right now, as we are facing the food crisis, so we wish if there is peace, then everyone has to cultivate, then you eat, so that there is no more hunger will come to South Sudan.
2/3 of the population here are now food insecure and at risk of starvation. Even at the peak of the civil war, the situation was not so grave. South Sudan's lands are extremely fertile, but instability prevents people settling down for the long term. Years of harvests have been destroyed, leaving farmers bankrupt.
You need to think where to farm. And then thereafter you see what do you have, actually the capital of starting. And mind you, farming is very expensive business, extremely expensive. It's more expensive that if you don't have money, you will not make it.
South Sudan is also suffering from a severe economic crisis. The nation is one of the least developed in the world. More than 80% of the population live below the poverty line. Every day, Keolan heads to Gumbo to sell his produce. It's the biggest market in Juba.
So here, how much are you going to give me this one?
Like this, 200.
200. Yeah, this is 200. 200.
Prices change every day as the exchange rate fluctuates. Keolan is struggling to make a profit. He must import seeds, fertilizers and pesticides and pays in dollars. But the value of the South Sudanese pound has plummeted. $1 was worth £3 at the start of the civil war in 2013. Today, it's valued at $750.
Most of the markets, those foreigners are the ones holding the business. We who are the citizens, we don't have a business that we can at least upload. Mostly business that we have here, even companies are all about the foreigners. Most of the people are broke. For you to open up a business that you can start, like those things are brought in a wholesale, it is very expensive.
It is impossible to compete with these foreign traders, and it's hard to buy food from them. Wages have not kept up with inflation. Keolan only consumes what he produces. The little money he earns, he sends to his relatives who are refugees in Uganda. This ramshackle shelter is the best he can afford.
It's okay. Because these are jerrycans for spraying other things.
It's a hard life, but at least he can work here without risk.
Here the security is at least somehow good, not like in the rural areas. Since the war broke out in 2017, I did not went to the village. Of course, if the situation is normal, everyone has to go for his village, and then you do every activities is there. Then everyone will be happy.
Like Keolan, tens of thousands of people have come from all over the country to live in Juba. Even though they do not mix, the different ethnic groups now live side by side. Since independence, 150,000 more people have moved to the city. Buildings are mushrooming, more and more roads are being built. The battlefields of yesterday have been transformed. In 2016, this art centre did not exist. No one dared set up shop in this district, once the heart of the fighting.
So it was a dangerous place, 2013, 2016. Many souls has been taken from this site. But now you can see people enjoying music and having a nice time, drinking and this. That means like the place has become peacefully.
Morgan is a well-known painter and singer in Juba. He and other artists are working together to create a local scene. This afternoon, a friend has come to rehearse with Morgan before a concert.
When I'm with you, you always make me feel so fine. I use my music, as a machine that can change the ideological thinking or mind of people, to make them forget about what happened in the past and trying to focus what should we do next. I'm doing this to let people know that we are all together. We can dance in one rhythm. We can sing with the different languages, but it's the same message.
The few South Sudanese art spaces are all in Juba. Created in 1976, the Nia Koron Center is the oldest cultural venue in the capital. Every Thursday, it hosts singers and comedians. For them, the future of the city should look like this place.
I think this is the only place where you can get all South Sudanese. You can get all the tribes are here. They're celebrating only one language they're using, that's Arabic Juba and sometimes English. That's it. I call this place a unity place. You get it? We don't have tribalism, we don't have war, we come here as one, we stand as South Sudanese.
Forgetting about the war, the money problems, making fun of each other without the risk of violence. For a few hours, the spectators stop thinking about their troubled past. It is a breath of fresh air. 41% of Juba's inhabitants live with post-traumatic stress disorder. The audience gets carried away listening to Morgan's love songs.
It is very important to have certain places like this in South Sudan, not just in Juba, in the different states. Our people here, they need things that can take them out from the trauma. Actually, for me, I call this platform as a trauma healing, because you know our history, where we come from, 2013, 2016, and we don't know. So people was very traumatized, and this is the right place to cure them.
It will take time to heal Juba's wounds. Maria, Kiolan and Morgan would like to turn the page on the war. Peace is not only in their hands, but each of them is trying to do what they can to make Juba the capital of a unified nation.
Our reporters revisiting Juba for France 24. Well, that's all from this week's edition. Of course, you can catch it and the previous editions as well on our website at france24.com. More news coming up very shortly. Thanks for watching.